Okay, cool. So first things first, I'm gonna need you to download a editor. So anything that you will want. So like what I use is called a VS Code. So I'm probably gonna need you to download one of these guys. So you can like kind of follow along with what I'm doing. I don't want you to like use like Notepad or something because then that'll just get too scuffed. So like if you just go to VS Code and then download, either you have a Mac or PC. I'm assuming PC might have Windows, so probably just use the Windows installation. Like so like other what other people uses like there's different kinds. There's other like called there's another one called Sublime Text, which is pretty popular among web dev people. But VS Code is pretty popular now, so I recommend downloading this code editor for now.
Okay, I'll download right now. Give me like 1 minute.
Yeah, go for it. Then yeah, and then it's up to you. But I created like a separate folder just to sort of have a place to put all the code in, and you can refer back. So you can do the same thing if you want to be organized, or just create a file or a folder somewhere else on your PC.
Yeah. Can you hear the conversation that's going on in the
A
background?
little bit, but like it's like noisy enough that I don't even know what's happening, so it should be fine.
Okay.
Yeah. As long as you're
Yeah, I
louder,
usually
then
play
no.
my phone
I see.
on my family computer.
Okay. But does that mean you're in school, college, or working?
I graduated,
Okay. Yeah,
but
because
it's not really related to the web dev program.
okay, no problem. You said you want to learn this just for your own curiosity, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's always good to learn new skills.
Yeah. I mean, otherwise, what you will probably do is read a bunch of like Google material and probably attend like, those like paid boot camps, right? To actually get serious about it.
Yeah.
But I can show you some stuff, like some beginner stuff that maybe you're interested in or not interested in, like long term doing web dev, right?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah.
Um, Visual is pretty much running right now, so I'm
Okay.
good to go whenever you're ready.
All right. Just making sure you have this editor open here, right?
Um,
Like just open the after you download it, open up the Visual Studio.
I think I'm ready. Yeah.
All right.
I mean, I
Cool.
don't. It doesn't look like your window.
It doesn't look like mine. I mean, I guess that's fine. Um, as long as you see something similar to it.
Oh wait,
Uh,
yeah, I think I got it.
all right. Cool. Cool. All right. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna create a new file. All right. So the first thing we're gonna learn is something called HTML, and we're gonna name this file index.html. You might be wondering like why do we call it index? Well, because it's just like a really so like for later on you'll realize that index refers to like the entry point of the web page. So like by just popularity, people usually name their things index. You don't have to name it index, right? You can name it anything else, but just to follow along with all the kind of best practices, I named it as index. And you notice that we put .html right in the extension.
Yep.
HTML stands for, if I remember correctly, it stands for Hypertext Markup Language, right? So you can kind of think it as a program language, like Java, C++, C, if you know any of those, like if you recognize any of those languages, like you can think of them as kind of like the same, but HTML is not exactly a programming language. It's more like the name says, a markup language. So it's more like a way to add syntax to text, like how you would do like like in Google Docs, right? You can make a text bold or italicized. It's doing basically the same thing, except it's more, there's more flavor, and it's used for web mostly. So yep, hopefully that answers some of your questions. Any questions beyond that before I start going?
No,
All right, cool.
should be good.
So keep things simple. When you start an HTML file, you usually want to start with a HTML tag. So this is a tag. So a tag is basically anything surrounded by these two angle brackets, right? You can put anything inside of it. And HTML is one of the predefined tags that we're going to use. It sort of just tells you this is an HTML page, right? And for more purposes, you can specify the language. So in this case, we'll specify it's English, right? EN stands for English. This may be like, because maybe if you're not in the US or Canada or somewhere which primarily speaks English, maybe in China, right? You will probably make the language something like CN for China or something. So, but as a standard for, assuming you're primary in like North America, right? I'm going to assume it's English is your primary language. You don't have to put this here, right? But just for completeness, I think we'll just put it here to explain you what that attribute does. So once you have this, let's say you want to open up a web page. So we can definitely open this page up, but before that, we want to put something on the page that will kind of tell you it's working, right? So let's just put some random text like, "Hi, my name is David," right? And then make sure you save this file. So I usually do Control S on my Windows, or you can just use File, and I think you can just do Save, and that works the same way. So once you got this, have you gotten this far? You finished it? Or maybe I'm going a bit too fast.
I mean, like whenever I typed it out, it doesn't look like yours.
Like color wise? Or
You see how color wise.
yeah, I think that's because I have some plugins pre-installed, which is my bad. Because I think, or actually, do you see this button down here? I don't know if you can see on the screen. Do you see where my mouse is?
Yeah.
If you, what does yours say? Does it say HTML?
One sec. Mine says plain text.
Okay. So I think what that means is, well, first of all, you want to switch this to HTML, right? So just click on it, and then go from like plain text to just typing HTML, and then select the first one. Let me know if you got that.
One sec. Let me give that a try.
Yeah. Yeah, let me know if I'm being too fast and stuff. So I just want you to be able to follow along.
Wait, can you show me how to change the plain text into HTML again?
Which part? This file name or the one down here?
The one down there.
Down there. So I assume when you started, you have plain text, right? So what you want to do is you want to click on this, and just type in HTML, and then just click the first one.
Oh, got it.
Yeah. Did it color
Okay,
anything?
nice. It's working now.
Alright, cool. So like, because different languages have different
Yes.
syntax. So once you pick the right one, usually the editor auto formats it for you, like color wise and things like that. Because then you can notice another neat trick, right? If I do this, you see how it's going. Once I put the closing bracket, it's going to auto complete the second part for me. This is kind of like, so this is an open tag and this is a closing tag. They usually go hand in hand. All right, so you got this working, right?
Yep.
Cool. And then make sure to save this file, because then if we're going to open this file, like if you don't save it, then nothing's going to show up. Now, go to the location of this file is, right? Go to the location. In my case, it's going to be here, right? I already pre-formatted it so that when I open this file, it opens in Chrome. But if you didn't do that, you can just do open with Chrome, Edge, anything you want, right? And I'm gonna just do Chrome. Oop, and it went into the it went into another page. Give me a second. You can also type this in here. So like for example, this is the path to my file, and then I can open it like this. So you see how, hey, my name is David, right? Let me know if you got to this part or if you're stuck somewhere.
Oh yeah, nice.
Yeah?
Yep, I'm at the same part as you.
Cool. And so every time, so you can do whatever you want with this file now, right? Every time you edit anything, this is a web dev streaming, right? Save it, and then you notice how this doesn't update. You just need to refresh the page and it updates for you. So make sure that after every change, you refresh your page for this file, and it'll auto update. Let's see what else. What's the next step? Okay. So here's another neat thing. This is not strictly coding involved, but have you ever used the Google Chrome inspector before? Or ever heard of it?
Nope.
Okay.
No.
This is fine. So there's shortcuts to open it up, but since I don't know if you're like exactly using like Linux, Windows, or Mac, or different like operating system, the quickest way is to get it is to just right click and inspect, right? And you shall see this, right?
Oh yeah, I see that.
Yeah. And now look here. You see this?
Wait, can you give me 5?
Yeah.
So I downloaded. So I'm using my little brother's laptop right now. I downloaded VS Code. I added in the HTML language English. My name is David. Yes.
With just the HTML tag. So realistically, this is not what you want, even though it works. There's a lot more organization involved in this. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a head tag. Or sorry, not header, just head. I think it's just head. Let me double confirm. Yep, just head. And then we're going to add a body. Oops, type this one wrong. Okay, autocomplete screws up. Okay. So what we want to do is actually put the text inside the body, right? So you can just copy that and put it inside the body. And then the head, we're going to use this later. I'm going to explain what we're going to use it for. But if you save this and refresh your index page, right? It's just stayed the same, right? Did you get this part down? I'm assuming you can see the stream.
Let me change some stuff up first.
Okay.
Number 2 is head.
Yeah.
Number 3. Oh, nothing on number 3.
Oh. You talk about line number 3, right? Yeah, nothing in the number 3. I just kind of spaced it out because I like to add stuff later, but it's up to you.
Yeah.
The main point is you having stuff in the body.
Head 5, 6. Head 7 is the body. No, 6 is the body.
We good?
Yep, I'm good.
Okay. And then if you save and then refresh your the Chrome or web browser, you're able to see it, right? Like if you refresh this page, you see the same thing.
Okay, I'm gonna save it right now.
Mm-hmm.
Let's take a look. No, I don't see anything on the right side.
Oh, on the right side. Okay, this I think we might have cut up there, but you see everything else without that, right?
Yeah, I see like, hi, my name is David.
Okay. Cool. All right. So I'll probably bring up the whatever you see on the right side back later. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna do something more interesting. We're gonna add styles to your web page. So styles are usually applied on web pages are what we call CSS. So CSS stands for cascading style sheet. And I mean, if you want to be more clear, it's sheet. So it's like CSS. What I did here is that you don't have to do this, but like I basically left a comment in the code. So when we compile the code, so basically when we save and then launch it in the web browser, this is not going to show up. Well, it shouldn't show up in the code. Actually, let me double check that. If I do that, oh, I guess it show up, but it's not going to be it's not going to be in the program itself. So this is what we call a comment. So don't worry about this. I'm just writing the comment out here just to show you to put some stuff that I'm saying into sort of context. So we're going to do this now. So there's 3 ways to do it. One way is to you can do a style tag here inside the head. I believe it has to be inside the head. And what you can say is, for my body, I want to give everything in the body a color of red, right? So you have a style tag, and you have this reference to body, so it's gonna point at all the body tags. It's gonna say for all the body tags, usually there's only one. There should be only one body at a time. For all the body tags, give my color red. Okay, and then if you save that, and then you go back to the browser, right? Then you'll see that your whole text becomes red.
Okay, I see that.
Yeah, you see that one?
Yeah.
Cool. So that's one way to do it. Another way to do it is you can. So I'm gonna comment this out because I want to show one or the other. So if you wonder how I did this, what I did was on the Windows laptop or PC, you can do Control Shift question mark or the backslash, and you can do the same. Actually, sorry, no shift. Control question mark, right? Because my keyboard's a bit weird, so I don't know where that key is, but I think it's Control question mark or like backslash. What's it called? Is it either the forward slash or the backslash right next to the shift button? And then if you highlight this, you can do that to comment the code out, or you can manually type it out, but this is faster. Let me see if they can see if there's any shortcuts here. Never mind, I don't see it here. Are you able to do that?
Let me try it.
This is in the command palette. Comment. Toggle block comment. Toggle line comment. Okay, yeah, it's this. Do you see my screen? It's
Yeah,
this,
I see your
this
screen.
shortcut. So Control plus, what is that? A forward slash? So you can highlight this chunk and then do Control forward slash, and you should see this. And then if you do it again, you should take it out. Are you able to get it working? Or if it's too annoying, then we can just ignore this, just delete this whole thing.
Yeah, it might be a little bit difficult at the moment,
Yeah.
just because yeah, it's my internet connection is like really super laggy in a laptop.
Okay, that's fine.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure what you want to do. I can either listen to you while you code, and then I can like, I guess like I can like replay the stream later on, and I can figure it out.
Yeah, okay, that sounds good too. So I guess for now we can just delete this.
Yeah,
Just delete that. Make it
I feel
simple.
so bad.
No, it's fine. It's totally fine. So the second way we can do the same thing, right? In your body tag here, you can actually add the style here as well. And
Yeah.
it has to kind of be particular about this. So you have to do color colon red, or like blue. I can make it blue this time, and then semicolon. You don't need the semicolon, but just semicolon makes it more complete, because then if you want to add more styles, you can add that as well. So try this. This should be much more doable. And then if we go back to the file, refresh, you should see it's now blue, right? Let me know if you got this far. Any luck? Okay, looks like we lost the guy. His Wi-Fi is being pretty bad, so I'm just gonna continue talking to myself. And hopefully when I record this, somebody will find this helpful. So this is the second way we can change the color or style, sorry, with the body tag. So this is the second way. And then the third and the most preferred way that everyone does is to create a separate file, and maybe you can call it whatever you want. For now, I'm just called index.css just to align with the name of the HTML file, because it's called index.html. I'm trying to align with that. What we're going to do now here is that we want to do the same thing, in which we reference the body, and then we change the color. And now let's say this time to green, right? And then we refresh the page. And we go look here, refresh, and oh crap, doesn't work. Why doesn't it work? Because I'm stupid. Because we need to do something here to say, hey, apply the styles from this .css file into my HTML file. So the way we're going to do that is through a link tag, and we're going to have the rel to refer to the style sheet, and then the href, meaning the source, right? It's going to come from like think we'll just do index of CSS here. Maybe I need to specify the path better, but I think this should work. Let me try this. There you go. See, now it's green. Cool, cool. So why do we have 3 ways to do these things? Well, there's some advantages to doing it through 3 ways. The most important reason is that the ways to do it, the difference between the 3 is that they have different precedents. So in the sense that if I apply a style sheet of green here, and I say apply a style header here, and I put body as color of blue, and then I put body style, let's say red here, only one of them can apply. And how do you know which one will apply? Well, if I remember correctly, the order will be that this inline, this is called the inline style. The inline style will take the highest priority, and then the second one might be the inside the style header here, and the third one will be the style sheet approach. So if I'm right, then we should see that the body gets, oops, this is bad, this should be color, should be red. So if we refresh this, yep, we see red. And then to confirm if this is correct, if we remove the red color from the body inline, and we just keep these 2, remember how this one has green, this one has blue. If I'm correct, it should show blue the next time around, but it could also it could be showing green if I'm wrong. So whichever one shows up, meaning that that one takes a higher priority over the other one. So let's see which one it is. Okay, looks like it's green. So that means that this one took priority over this one. But I actually wonder, in this case, I think it matters depending on where you put it, right? Because this one, we put it after the style tag here. That means their style might be getting applied after this. So to confirm that, if we put this in front, right, then maybe now blue will get applied, right? Let's try that. Looks like that was it, right? So the order in which what you put in the header also matters. But regardless of either case, if you have an inline style, that one takes priority over all the other ones. Okay, cool. So, but for best practice, what we have right now is we want to use the reference style sheet approach. That's the most common one because it allows you to not put all your code in one file and lets you isolate your code. So in HTML, there's many ways to, there's many tags and there's many ways to format your web page, right? For example, here you have a body, but usually every single text that you have should be wrapped in a tag. But the body is usually like referencing the entire content of the document. So usually what we do is we want to add something else to represent the text, and we usually do those through a paragraph tag, which is it's defined by the P tag, which stands for paragraph. Or you can also have, you know, a spam, right? Another spam is like a inline item. So the difference between the paragraph and the spam is the biggest difference is that the paragraph applied some of its own stylings already, which you can actually override with the style sheet approach that I just showed earlier. But the biggest difference is that the paragraph usually represents a paragraph, and it has like its own internal padding and margins and stuff like that. And so I'll show you here too. So this is to demonstrate, let's just say this is a spam, and let's say this is a paragraph. right? And if we save this and we refresh this page, so right now you don't really see a big difference, but once I pull up the inspector, which you can do either Ctrl+Shift+I, or you can right click and inspect here, you will see that, okay, inside your body, because remember I said the body represents the whole document. Well, technically this represents the whole document, but the body represents the content, and the body has its own margin surrounding it. So because if you look at this screen, you see how there's an orange border, and if you look here, this thing tells you, hey, body has a margin of 8, and we can totally override that to not have the margin of 8 by supplying our CSS. And you can actually also see our CSS style sheet in Works, because if you look here, you see that body color green, which comes from this spreadsheet, right? And so now let's look at the P in the spam tag. Now this is what I was talking about, right? So if you look, the P tag itself applies its own internal stylings that comes with the P tag. So the P tag, if you look here, has the display block, margin start block 1 EM, which I believe means emphasize. And then, you know, all these margins. And then if you look at the spam, it has nothing, right? Spam is just alone. But then the paragraph already has its own internal padding involved. And so if you want that, you will want to use the P tag, and you can also customize it. The spam is usually used when you don't need any sort of visual differences, and it also can be used to do some tricky, unique things to tackle some complicated CSS stylings and formatting. And okay, so what else? So there's a lot more tags we can go through. There's also a anchor tag, right? So anchor tag is referenced by A, and this means you can link it to anywhere you want. So in this case, let's say if I want to say this links to Google, right? Actually, I think you had to give the whole HTTPS, but if you don't, I think this might work too. So maybe let's say www.google.com, and then click me to go to Google, right? We save that and refresh. Oh, go to handle. Sorry, I meant to Google. Save, refresh. Okay, so you see, it actually trying to go to google.com/my relative path, which is not going to work. You want it to go to actual google.com without all this pathing. This is where it gets a bit tricky. So I think you might actually need to have to do https://google.com. And look, that works, right? I'm gonna close this for now. So we went to Google. Now let's go back here. And the anchor tag can also be used to go to different places in your page. So but then the way to do that is you need a place that says, use a div. A div is just a wrapper, like a container for things. A lot of people use, like, divs is pretty much like spammed or abused sometimes because of how much flexibility allows you to wrap things around and do a lot of cool customizations. But some people do it to the point where it's kind of abusive. So in order for this href to work to link to things within your page, you need to go to the ID, assign an ID to this tag. What should we call it? Maybe my ID, right? And this is a div, right? And then click me to go to my div, right? And then we reference here. We want to do, I believe, if I'm correct, it's hashtag my ID. Or is it hashtag / my ID. I need to remember the syntax for this, but let's just try this for now. Click me to go to my div. Okay, and you see how I applied the hashtag here. This is actually kind of really bad to describe what it's doing because they're like on the same page. It's hard to see any interaction. So in order to show you, demonstrate you how the page like relative navigation works, I need to create a I need to make this bigger so that it actually becomes like longer than one page. So because I already have an ID, to reference that ID, so ID is actually a good indicator for CSS too, because there should be only one, there should only be one unique ID per page. So I can reference my ID using the hashtag. Hashtag stands for ID, and I can say height equals 3000, right? Because I think one document, if I call it inspector, a single document has a height of, let's see, what is this? I forgot how to see. Oh, I see on the bottom, it says, I think 1615, so 1615 of height. So this should easily give us like maybe even 2 pages worth of height, right? So if I add that, and then we refresh, and okay, so we did add the height, but the problem is I need to add the height between this and this, because all I'm just doing is adding a height here, but I don't actually create any spacing between the 2 elements here. So what I actually want to do maybe is not height, but create like a margin top. So it creates that, you know, that orange border we saw here. So this top orange border here will be 3000 pixels, which will push this all the way down. So let's try that, and voila, just see this section is all the way down here, and if we click on this, it should go down there, and it did, right? So that's how you do relative navigation within your page by using the anchor tag. Cool. What else should we show? There's also an image tag, right? You can put a source and it will show a picture. And let me remove these. To do that, I need a reference to the source of the picture. So let me just go to Google Images real quick, right? Images. Let me look for a bird, right? Bird. Okay, I found a bird. Encyclopedia. Let's see if I can find one standalone picture. Songbirds. Forget this. There's the JPEG, right? We want the reference to the JPEG. Put it here. It should be loading just fine. And it failed. Why did it fail? Because cross-origin read blocking. Dang it. I hate cross-origin. What this means is usually this is like a security protocol in which the web page is saying I cannot load another image on a website that does not belong to me, right? So because usually the content are owned by the person owning the website. So to get rid of this, let's see. This has been a long time since I had to deal with this. Well, not CSS. HTML reference third party image. Google is your best friend. Let's look at an example here. Oh, but these pictures, you see this is not external. These pictures are all internal, like meaning that they're hosted by the W3 school themselves. Yeah. Okay, this is very annoying. But what we could do, make this work. Let's just demonstrate. We can save this image. Save this image, and then we can pop that image right in. So drag here, drag it here. And I'm gonna rename this because that name is too damn long. Bird, right? Then we're just gonna say bird JPEG, right? Go back here. Bam! You see a big bird picture, right? You can also shrink this as well, because this is taking the original resolution of the picture. So to do that, you can do height, width. So the cool thing about the image tag is it has these attributes called height and width, which you can define. You can also do this by using CSS, but we're just going to do it here. Now let's say I want 300, 300. So the 300 here, I believe we don't need to specify pixels. We should by default just apply pixels. If not, then we put the px in, but assuming I don't think you need to. So voila, right? Bird got shrunk, and then we can see, hey, this bird has, you can see, has 300 height and 300 width, right? Cool. And that's all the basics of HTML. So you can see HTML used a lot, and CSS is also used quite frequently. Well, CSS and HTML are used usually always together. Another trick to CSS is there's classes, right? Before you imagine, if I want to create a section, 2 sections that are different colors. Let's say I'm gonna create 4 sections that's gonna alternate between 2 different colors, right? So what I'm gonna do is this is section 1. Then I'm gonna copy this 4 times. Right? 1, 2, 3, 4. And the formatting got screwed up, but that's fine. Fix that real quick. And that's not 4 times, that's 5 times. Okay. And then I'm gonna give each one a class. So this is called a section. There's actually a tag name called section. So this might be maybe a little bit misleading because we can also name this section. It's more semantic. But for the purpose of just showing you how things work, I'm just gonna do this, which is sort of unorthodox. Put this as a section. And then maybe we want to call another class, right? So these all share. I want to say these classes all share. But to identify a class, we use the dot. And we use section. And we give it a height, or let's say 300 pixels. And then the width gonna be 100%. When you say 100%, it doesn't necessarily mean 100% of the viewport width, like your whole web page. What it does mean is that it looks at the parent, which is the body in this case. And I'm gonna say, okay, wherever I apply this, I want the parent's width, 100% of the parent's width. So if the body by default has 100% width, then the child, which in this case, whoever is using the section class, will take over as well. We'll use the 100% of width. So if body was 1,000 pixels, then this div will also have 1,000 pixels as its width. But we want to also alternate some classes, right? So like, for example, like background red, let's call it. And then we have a background blue, right? We can say background color equals red. Sorry, background color equals red. Then we can say here the background color should be blue, right? And then we're going to alternate. How are we going to alternate? Classes, you can say I want to apply multiple classes. So section is one class, the other class here I want to use background red, right? Background red. And this is one thing why people love using style sheets, because you can easily modify things here in a separate file than just do it all in line here. Because the other way you can do it is you can manually add the style here, but you cannot, you have to repeat all the classes styles. So here we want to put blue, and here we want to put red, and here we want to also put blue. Oops. And then I'm going to change this name. This is 2, this is 3, this is 4. Let's save everything. And then, I guess I should mention also one difference between a class, right? A class and an ID is that IDs are usually unique. They should only have one tag, should have an ID. That's like, you cannot share the same ID with another tag. But for classes, that's not the case. For classes, you can recycle, reuse it all of the time. Doesn't matter. So if we just load this up real quick, all right, and you can already see I screwed up because we don't see any background colors change here. So what just happened? So you can see that there should be a background color. And a cool thing about the inspector is actually you can actually edit the styles in line here. So if I want to do background color equals red. Wow, cool, right? You can turn it on and off like this, and yeah, and then you can also turn on and off the height of all the sections as well. All right, that's one of the cool things about inspector. You can not only view things, you can also modify things. But know that once you refresh, everything that you modify here is going to be gone. So now let's say, why did that not work? Background red. Okay, it's because instead of an underline, I should be using a dash. And now if I refresh, bam. Really bad for your eyes, but looks good, right? Cool. And this looks like a nation's flag, maybe. Actually, no. There should be only 3 stripes or things like that. But yeah, that's how you make alternate sections. You might think, oh man, this gets pretty tedious, right? Because then if I want to do alternating, I have to do that. I have to repeat this for all of them. And that is why we also use not just HTML, CSS, we use JavaScript as well. So the sweet teaser to JavaScript is we can also do a script tag. I believe the script tag can also go in the head, but there's actually a big difference between where the script tag goes in the head or like somewhere else after the body, for example, because when we load these things are sort of low. We have to get the resource somewhere, and the web page has to make a request to fetch these resources. And if your script is huge and it does a lot of things, it can block your entire page from rendering as fast as it needs to. So for example, if your script does not need to interact with these elements and you put a huge script here, it's going to block these things from rendering until we get the script back. On the other hand, if you put the script, I think down here, you're allowing this page to load everything first and then executing the content of the script. But for this case, we don't care about that. That's why I'm not really concerned about it. So we're just going to do something here. So for example, I want to create alternate sections, right? And I want to call it exactly this is section 1, section 2, section 3. What you could do is, this gets a bit more into programming, and I recommend people to get a fundamental understanding of some common programming concepts first. But the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a function. And I'm gonna call it alternate color. Actually, more precisely, alternate blue and red. Right. And what do we need to do? Here's some comments. Create a div, right? Or create a number of divs. How do we know how many divs to create? We're gonna tell it how many divs we want. So we probably call number of div, right? And then we're gonna say, okay, for every even div, right, give it blue background. Otherwise, give it red background. Right, this is a div. I mean, sorry, not div. So basically every odd div, right? So first, create a number of divs, and actually I also want to say create its text. So in this case, example would be, hey, create this section 1, right? But this can also be, 2, 3, 4, whatnot. Doesn't matter. So what we're going to do is a simple for loop to iterate through the number of divs that we want. So if the number of divs here is 4, then we're going to say for let I equal 0. I is less than the number of div. I plus means increment I. I'll highly recommend you to read up on it for a little bit, because I don't think I can explain, but I cannot. It's a really common concept that you should get a good grasp on, but hopefully I can show you how it works. We want to say create a div, right? So we have const div, or like div document. Document refers to this thing that actually builds the entire web page for me. This is actually called the DOM, D-O-M, right? DOM stands for Document Object Model. That is actually what builds our whole web page. So they give us a nice tool that we can access called document, that we can create an element. We'll call it div. This is how you create divs without HTML, just programmatically. It will create this guy. And so we create that div. Okay, we gotta give it a text, right? So in this div, we want to say give it a text content, or I guess text content, text inner text. I forgot the difference between the two, but let me just try the text content. I want to say this is section, right, space, and we can say section 1, but that means that all our divs will have section, the number 1 in it. We don't want that. We want it to be the actual referencing for like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and etc. I don't know why I have this duplicate here. I'm gonna take that out. So we want to stop here and concatenate plus the I number, because in your first run through this loop, you will have I equals 0, because we started with 0. And then on the second loop, on the second div, we'll say I it's 1, because we've incremented here. And then we continue this loop until we hit the number of div, which is going to be, in this case, 4. And it's going to stop. So you'll create 4 divs, and then you have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 here. Oh, also, my bad. What this should be, this should be 1, because we want the first section to be called 1. And then we want to terminate our loop at less than or equal to the number of this because we didn't start at 0, so we increment 1, so we also kind of just added 1, but you can also do this, right, to make that work. So we created the div context, right, and then we want to add the colors. So how do we add the colors? We add the class. So we can add class list. I think we can just add. First we want to add everyone to section, right? Every class, not even, doesn't matter if you're even or odd, should have a section class, right? But if you're even, so if you're even, I'm giving you a different class than if you're odd. So how do we check if you're even? Pretty simple. You check if the number I it's a modulo of 2 is 0, right? This shows you a number is even or not. But here's the one problem. Because our first element, it's technically 1 now, because we called it 1, kind of sucks. This, on the first iteration of this loop, I will be 1, and 1 mod 2 is 1, not 0, because 1 is odd. So in the first color, we'll actually have background blue, right? So on even, we get background red. So what we want to do is manually here -1 to reset it back to 0. Or you can do the same thing here and change this to 0, change everything else, change this to +1 and stuff, but that's the other way to do it, but I'm going to stick with this way. And the reason why I put parentheses here, because if I don't, there might be some, I actually don't know this off the top of my head, but if I don't do this, maybe it could do 1 modulo 2 first, like your normal, like, you know, the order of operations might get screwed up. So because I always want this to be safe, I always want this to be performed for sure first. I'm going to put in parentheses so this gets executed first, and then we modulo 2. So if you're even, we're going to give you background red. So div that class list add background red, right? Cool. Otherwise, this is the cool part. I don't even check if it's odd, because I know if you're not even, you're odd. So if you're, so basically this else is the same. If you're not even, right, I'm going to give you the blue background, right? Yeah, I'm going to comment this out because we don't need this anymore. So by comment this out, this is not going to be part of the web page. Okay, so now we have this. We created a bunch of divs, and what are we going to do, right? How do we use this? This is just a function. You need to execute the function for it to actually do things. But this function also is not complete, because what it does is creates, let me rename this, it creates alternate blues and red divs, right? Let me make this function more clear. But I haven't called it. I defined it, I haven't called it, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna call it creates alternate blue and red, right? How many number of divs do we want? We want 4, right? And I actually want to store this somewhere. So this is going to be my divs. And I didn't go through this much, but there's a very big difference between this variable, how do I call this? Like let identifier, let and const. So let, it gets pretty confusing, because it used to be that we can use var for everything JavaScript, but there's some annoying thing called hoisting that kind of gets really tricky. I'm not going to explain it right now because it gets really deep into the programming model of JavaScript. But for now, to avoid any like annoyance, usually you use let inside the for loop, unless you have actual other purposes for using other than let, such as bar. And const means that this variable is locked. You should not be changing this variable anymore, which is what we're not, right? What I mean by that is if you use a const, means stands for constant, and you try to change div to something else, right? This is not allowed because const is saying this should not be changed like this. If you use let, for example, now that is possible, but because we're strictly saying div should not be modified, even though we're modifying like the internal states by doing this, but that's not modifying the thing itself, because everything variable created is stored in memory, and we're not changing the actual memory address which div is pointing at. That we're fine, right? So we're going to create a bunch of divs, and then we need to put this somewhere. So for example, divs, where do we put it here? We put it to the body, right? And luckily the document has access to the body, document.body, right? And we can just add this div there. And we do that by append child, meaning I'm gonna give you a new child, and it's gonna be a list of divs, right? So we're gonna append divs. Oh, actually, I screwed up. So this is supposed to return us a list of divs, right? Return us our list of divs, right? But I'm actually not returning anything. I'm just directly adding this and ignoring it. I actually need to store it in a list and then return it at the end. So what I'm going to do is create a list. In JavaScript, this is going to be const, I don't know, what should we call it? Like div list, dev list. Give it two brackets, two square brackets. That's meaning it's an empty array. And for every div that I create, I'm going to push it into that array. So div list, I think it's push, yes, push div, right? And then this means that on the first iteration, you know, my div list will look like div1, you know, and then second iteration, I'm gonna push it, and it's gonna be div1 and div2. The push actually adds items to the back of the list, so you see this keeps incrementing, and so on and so forth. This will be like div3, div1, 2, 3, and so on and so forth until div4, right? Or like up to the number of divs. And once we fill up this list, we want to return it. Take this out here. Put this here because the comment does not apply down. And then return div list. All right. And then we're gonna say append child. There's one gotcha that I think it might not work, but we'll try it. I don't know if append child takes in a list. It might only take in individual elements, but I'm gonna try this. So once we have this function defined, we're now gonna add this piece of code to the document body, right? And I have a feeling it's gonna fail, but shall see. And failed, right? So what does it say? Cannot be property append child of null. pen child of null. So it's saying here that the body has not been created yet, and therefore you are not able to append. So basically what it's saying that here the document body does not exist, and we can check for that. Nice thing about the inspector is we can put something called debugger here, refresh this, and then you see it hits the debugger here because we're trying to load the script. And here it allows you to play a lot of different things. So we can see what the divs looks like. Like you imagine what I said, right? We have an array of 4 items. But what we're curious about, we want to see the document body, right? And we see the document body is null. Oh no, right? And this is actually kind of goes back into what I was talking about earlier, to saying that it matters where you put the script, right? Because we put the script in the head before the document even rendered, right? the body does not exist yet. So there are 2 ways we can do this. One is to add something here that listens to when the body is actually loaded, then we do this logic. If not, then I think the other way we can do this is put this script somewhere near the bottom. I think that'll also work. Save, saving, debugger, we check for document body again, and look, we have the body, right? That's good. And so let's see if it appends. So to go next on the debugger, there's a lot of commands, but we're gonna resume past debugger. Let's see what's gonna happen. Parameter 1 is not a node. Okay, this is also expected because, like I said, this is a list. I believe a pen child is a method that only takes in an element meaning a single element like a div, right? So it only takes in one at a time. So what can we do? What we can do is do the same thing we did here and do a for loop. So for let I equal 0, find the number of divs, which is 4 here, and then we can do increment, and then we do document body dot append child dot divs. I want to say we want the first one, the second one, the third one, and the fourth one, right? So we're going to do I because the first iteration takes in. So in any programming, in most programming languages, arrays are 0 base indexed. So when you say 0 div of 0, it means that I want the first element. And so it's not 1, it's 0. And so we do I here. So because the first iteration we get 0, the second iteration increments, and then we get 1. So it'll be divs 0, divs 1, divs 2, divs 3, and then you're done because divs 3 is the last one, which is the 4th element, right? And so we do that. We go back, we refresh, and look what we see. We see that we created alternate sections, right? The exact same code as what's doing here. We can even check the elements here, right? Exact same thing, but we just did it through JavaScript. We kind of automated this, right? And now the cool things about this is this depends on the number of divs. So if we create a variable called number of divs here, right? Actually, it could be named differently because this is only unique within this function, and we can call it, we can recycle this variable name and call number of div. It does not refer back to this function's number of div parameter. But yeah, so let's say we want to say I want 12, right? I want to create 12 of them. Easy. Replace this parameter with number of div because it's 12, and this also number of div. Then save, refresh, And now you have 12 sections of alternating background, right? And I believe there's a comment that is there a way to change the height of the blue and red colors on the website? Yes, you can do the same thing. There's two ways to do this. Create a new class for it with different heights. So, for example, maybe this can be called even height. For even numbers, you can have a height of 200, right? Maybe you can have an odd height, a number of a height of 400, right? I just say for evens you want 4, and then what you're gonna do is very simple. Class this add, because this is a even. We want the even height, okay? And then otherwise you're odd, we want to give you the odd height, right? Well, gotta save this first and then save this. Right? Just changing the method. Everything else stays the same. And so we go here, refresh. Now you can see that every alternate section has different heights. So this one has a height of 200, right? See, it says 1,582 by 200, but that means the width is 1,582. The height is 200. The next one, the height is 400. Next one is 200. Next one is 400. So yes, you can easily alternate height as well. The other way that I was saying you can do is directly adding styles here without using this at all. You can do that by div style, right? Height equals 200 pixels, right? Even height 20 pixels. And you can also do the same thing here. It's div style height 400 pixels, right? And you do that and do that, and this will give you the same result. See, the only difference is one is using a class and one's not using a class. But in practice, what you really want to do is leverage style sheets, because as you can see, they're very simple to use, and they're also more robust than inline styles, because what inline style does, it adds these style tags, and then you can easily accidentally override something. Like for example, if I was adding section class, right, and somebody else out there wanted to use styles and they don't know about section, they already added a height of 300 pixels. I'm overriding the 300 pixels. If I don't want to override this 300 pixels, I can also I should ignore that. Because here I'm overriding it, and then when I'm using the class, I'm also overriding it. But the reason why you don't want to use style, because it's harder to tell when the style is overriding something than when the class is overriding something, right? Because if you can tell the class is overriding something, you can easily go through the CSS and see which class has which style, which element had which class applied to it, and then you can easily search, okay, will they conflict, will one override the other, versus if something had a style applied to it, you will need to check everything. And that gets annoying because in CSS there's the notion of cascading, right? There's a reason why it's called cascading style sheet, because if I had a body and my body had a class or had a style, right? Let's say my body custom style, right? And then I got put this because it's a class. I want to give the body a not high, something. I want to give body the background color of actually, this is not a good example. Okay. Let's say for all the divs, and this refers to all the div tags. Notice how this is not referring to ID because there's no hashtag, and it's not referring to class because there's no period. Referring to all divs, so all tags that look like this, right? This is, I want to give everything a default height of, or let's say background color of cyan, right? It won't show cyan here because I'll put a class method back here because it got overwritten. If we want to create a class, if we don't want it to get overwritten, then you have to be more specific here, right? Like for example, so I think I also need to explain this part a little bit. What this body append child does is it's just adding elements to the body. So if I had like a lone div here that was on its own, right? This is a loner section. What's going to happen when we run this method, right? It's actually going to add these 12 behind this div, but this div will have the default color of cyan, whereas the other colors gets overwritten by this. So if we do that, right, you see this is a loner section, and then you don't have the height applying to it or anything else applying to it because it gets this, and then the background color gets overwritten by these classes. See what else to show. There's a lot of things to digest here. There's no good way to go about the next one. And I guess because of the style sheet and other benefits, you can have multiple style sheets. You can have an index, have another one called maybe like another, of CAB. It doesn't matter what you call it as long as you reference it correctly, right? Like that, you can have that as well. And you can also have multiple HTML pages, right? Let's say I want another HTML page because websites usually have more than one pages. Maybe like page2.html, right? Very simple, same thing. You copy some stuff here, but you don't need to because it's very simple. Create another page. And actually, I don't need any of this, but I'm just doing this for organization's sake. Then so this is actually part for my own device. Keep it paragraph type. This is my second page. Okay, and let's repurpose this guy, right? Let's say I want an anchor tag here. I wanted to navigate to my second page, right? Whoops. Derp. Closing tag with the A. Closing tags are very important for a lot of elements because if you don't close it, then they assume you're not done with that element, and they'll try to assume all the way until you actually close it, or if you never close it, it will probably be a compilation error or like give you some really funky code. So I want to go to page 2, the HTML. I actually don't even think you need HTML, but maybe I think you do. Well, we can try. Click me to go to page 2. Then save. Click me to go to page 2. It doesn't work. So I think we do need the HTML. It doesn't know what that file name is. So here, boom, then click. See, this is my second page. And also we want to redirect, right, back to the first page. So you create another one. It says index.html. And you can say go back to the first page. Refresh. Go back to first page, go back to second page, go back to first page, go to second page, right? Very simple. You can do the exact same thing you did here, put its own CSS classes in there and whatnot as well. Okay, so the question is, how would you code a drop-down menu? Go to a website and order a sweatshirt. You have to click a drop-down menu to pick your size. All right, I'll show you that. Let's create a new file just for that demonstration. Drop-down HTML. Right. I'm gonna copy this web page again. I just want to keep it things clean because then this is already too congested. So let's see. Yeah, okay, cool. Do the same thing here. English. I'm gonna get a bit lazy and just use the body here for now. So a drop down. It's very easy. You just need to use this tag called select. And what a select do is you have it basically gives you the drop down menu, and you each of the options of the drop down is going to be called option. So for example, you want to buy a sweater, right? I'm going to give you a title, or like a header. There's different types of headers. This is called header 1, which is like the biggest header. There's like H2, H3, H4, H5, and there gets gradually smaller and smaller and smaller. But H1 basically gives you some default font sizes. So like we have to do like on a sweater drop down, right? And give me some prices, right? Let's say I want price 20. Yeah, 20. And then another option, maybe actually this paper looks nicely if I just do everything in line. I guess you don't want prices, you want to pick sizes. Small, medium, large. Very most basic one. Small, medium, large. SML. Okay. Save that. Okay, go to your page. Change this because it's not in index anymore. It's in drop down HTML. There, it's drop down. Right? Pick small, medium, large. But most of the time, though, when you do this, there's a lot of scripting involved because, right, you pick a size, you want to know what size they picked, and then you can maybe do some calculation to find out what the price of that sweater is, and then do transactions, save it to a cart, and all that cannot be done just through HTML, right? The HTML just gives you a picker, but once you get the values you want to write some code to actually process that information. So let's say, for example, if you pick small, then the price of the sweater is $15 if you pick, or $10 if you pick medium, it's another price, right? So what we could do is, I'm actually going to look up the definition for select real quick, because off the top of my head I don't remember what they have. So you can see the definitions for select actually I should probably use a label instead of a header. It's more semantic and more accessible. So you have different options here. And it's value. Okay, this value is important because when we do it programmatically with JavaScript, you can get like which one the select has picked, and then to to get the value, you don't want the text. Most of the time, you don't want the actual text. You want this value point. So, like for example, in your case, you pick like SML, SML. It'll fit. Even though sometimes they could be the same, like Mercedes, like sometimes they could be the same, but they don't have to always be the same. So let's try to code it right in JavaScript. So very easily, should I put this in the body or not in the body? Put this not in the body. I don't think it doesn't really matter. So put the script here. Let's say the value of this, it's S. The value of this option, it's M. The value of this option, it's L. And then this is actually going to be called small, because on the UI we display as small, medium, and large, but the actual values are S, M, and L, right? So we give the select ID sweater drop down, right? And okay, now comes the coding part. How do we access the select and get the value we want, right? So what you want to do is get the select drop down, and we can do that by, so now the document's ready. I'm going to say, okay, get the element by ID. And what is the ID? It's the sweater drop down. Okay, so we have the element. Now we're going to say whenever you pick a value in the select drop down, I need to record it. So we do this by drop down add event listener, right? Event listener, and we gotta give it a function, and then it has to listen to an event as well. So I believe here is going to be click, because each of these options, to interact with it, you have to click it, right? And so once you get the click, I believe then what you can do is, I'm not sure, I think the select the value is tied to the option. Or is it not? I think. When you click, you get the drop down option. So in this case, when you don't know things, you can either Google, or you can actually manually try things out by using debugger, right? So let me just record the drop down here for reference. Actually, I don't need to. I don't think so. Just to demonstrate the click working, the interact with the drop down. Let's go here. Right, you see now it's small, medium, okay. Did not want the debugger to hit, but okay. At least now you know the debugger works. You clicked on the option, the drop down, right? Okay. Now I want to know what the value is. So I have to select here. Let's go drop down. Does it give me the value of the selected thing? No. Oh, it does. And there's other values too. Oh, that's cool. So actually, the select does expose a thing called value that corresponds to the option you clicked. So I pause. Yikes! What the heck is this? Okay, click on. Medium. Right. Like, then the drop down value here should be M. Cool. But it's kind of annoying because I don't want this the first one to trigger because I only wanted to trigger when I hit the option. Let me just search it up real quick. How would you make it more censored? It is cut off on my side. Oh. Make it more, I think you mean centered. That's easy. The power of HTML. Remember how this body we have we can customize inline styles for faster prototype. I'm just gonna shift everything by a certain margin, say 200 pixels. This is really hacky, but it should work. Bam. Now it should be in the screen. At least I hope it is. Right, and now I'm looking for select drop down event listener. Wonder if select say event listener. Oh, okay. Got it. We wanted to change, right? Because I don't want the click. Like I don't want that. I wanted the click to fire only when we selected something in this program. So we'll change it to change, right? And now it should not fire when I click this, but only when I change my option, my choices, right? And then let's say you know have some kind of cart somewhere, right? Maybe you have a cart. It's an array because you have a list of items you are buying. And then once you select, you want to add to your cart, right? You can use a button for that. A button. It's called add to cart, right? And then when you click the button, some elements have this capability where you can directly attach the click listener to it and add your function to it. For example, I don't think select has it. Maybe select does have this. I'm not sure, but if you create a function, you can directly attach it to this. Maybe I'll leave it out for now. Okay, more centered. I guess maybe it's not centered enough. What we can do is actually legitimately center it, like lazy. But what if I use margin auto? Nope, doesn't work. Okay. Centering is actually quite interesting. What is it? There's a lot of techniques for centering things. For body, for these things, I guess we can just use vertical line. I don't want to use it. Margin auto should work. Auto center. Search it up real quick. Is it margin 0 auto? Margin 0 auto. Click apply. I know. Maybe because it doesn't work on the body. So this is where the div comes in. Maybe we create an empty container around this so we can apply the styles to everything here. I don't know why it's not working on the body. Maybe this doesn't work either, but it's worth a try. Body to style. Auto. It'll work. also does not work. Could I think about this? Why doesn't it work? Blade block. Split block, okay. Split block. That margin goes auto. Nah. Alright. I'm not gonna go too much into it because I had to refresh my memory a little bit, but let's just give it a good enough margin. Or just, yeah, 50%. Just give it 50%. Yeah, rough. Not exact. Should not do this, but since I'm prototyping, just settle for this for now. 40%. Cool. Yeah. And then yeah, so we're doing a cart function, right? So we want to create a function called add to cart. Add to cart. Right? So what it does is when you choose something, you want to add it to the cart. And actually, yeah, let's not worry about prices for now because I'm also thinking about if we want to add the price functionality. But add it to the cart, we can do cart push. Yes, I guess we can call sweater. Sweater. So every time push to this not gonna work. Actually, this will work. Cool. Instead of using onClick, I'm gonna do a custom one. Yeah. Custom one. We can just do this. Add to cart. And that also. I need to this. Don't quite remember. This is very vanilla, but we'll try this. So how do we know which sweater you picked? Well, we look at the drop down value. So because after this change, so we don't actually need this. This is useless. So because this drop down value will change every time you actually interact with these options. So we say down value, that is the sweater you picked, right? And then you can say, okay, I pushed this to my cart. I gotta put the cart up here because we have to define what the cart is before we add to it. And then you can say, okay, once we add that one, I guess you can also add, like, say, how many quantity. But that'll just get a little bit more complicated. I don't think we should mess around with that right now, but we could. And you can imagine it'd be a side-by-side button, right? But not really feeling it. So add to this weather, and then we can say push. I don't know, I want to display this selection. I don't want to display it. Maybe we can give a cost to each section. So for example, like a custom mapping, where it's like cost, right? Be like S, it's $10. M is $20. Large is $30, right? And then you can be like, maybe not cart. You can push cart too. And then in the end, there's gonna be a function or element that maybe we can put here that says the total sum, right? We can use a spam here. So the total equals this number. Here we have to spam the ID because this is the actual total. There's going to be some number in here which we don't know yet. So right now, I guess you can start at $0, $0, right? $0 USD. And then when you add to the cart, you push. We don't need to actually do this because I don't know what we're going to use that for now, but you can, let's just sum up the cost, right? Sum up the cost. And we got name another function like sum cost. So add to cart. So I don't know what to do with add to cart yet, but I know how to do sum cost. So I will change this as well. And say, okay. Sweater equals to drop down value and cart push. Sorry, not current total is $0. If you have a drop down value, I want to map it to the cost. So the sweater, right? I want to add to my total. And I want to update the element total to a new total. So that should be like the text content or the inner text. I don't know which one. They'll both work. And actually we want to add a $sign here as well. There's another cool thing they call templating. You do the backtick. You can use the $sign to refer to a variable. Without a $sign, it would just be regular integer. I mean, sorry, would just be regular string. So here's a $, of the total. Okay, and I want this function to update every time I add it to the cart. So let's try this. I wonder if it will actually work. Okay, add to cart. Assign it to constant variable. Okay, that's my bad because total has to be modified because we're updating the value all the time. So can I use the constant? added 10. Oh, this is my bad. Looks like I'm just adding values. This should not be a string, this should be an integer, because I also think I'm just appending strings. That's why you see 10 added to 10, right? But now, okay, $10, small, medium, added $40, large, added $70, add another one, 7. It's $100. If you want to do like a thing where, like how Shopify does it, you can list out all the merchandises and then all the prices and then sum total. We can also do that. But it'll be a bit more tricky because it's a bit more involved when you have vanilla JavaScript here. But we can try it. All we need to do is create another div that's gonna be, let's call it cart history, right? I have this guy auto update every time, and we're going to redo this. We're going to call this add to cart. Okay, get this back on. Okay, now every time you add a sweater, cart registers a sweater in it. And then what we also want to do is get this cart history element. It's actually better if we cache this initially here, right, as a cart history, because you're going to incur some performance cost by keep calling this function when you can just save it, you know, one time. That was a cart history. Okay. We also need another. Actually, I'll create another function that's going to say create history item, because we need to create some kind of visual representation here, right? Like this, each item should be a cart. What I'm going to do is document create element div. All right, create a div, and what do we want to give it to it? Two things. Maybe the size of the sweater you picked and the price of the sweater, and maybe even the number. But that's gonna get more involved, so I don't want to do that right now. So okay, we have a div, and we want to say, okay, create, maybe this is the size. Create an element that tells you the size, and create an element that tells you the price. I'm gonna use the p-tags because they're text elements. Maybe I use span, so there's no like extra styling. And so we create a history item. What do we need? We need the size and the price, right? And so it's gonna say, okay, so the size content is gonna be the size, and the price content is going to be the price, but we also want to give it $sign, so we do the template syntax, and then we have to put these two spams back to the div, and child, so they become part of the div. And then return the div. We will create a history item, the DOM representation of it. And so the cart history we're going to push. Sorry, not push. We're going to create the history item, right? History item. Create history item. We know the size, that's the sweater. Sweater size. And we do a cost because the cost is just the mapping of this to the sweater size. Sweater size. And then the cart history, we're gonna say push. Push to border pad child. History item. In the end, we still want a total, so whenever you add to cart, we want to actually sum up the cost as well. So we want to change this method a little bit. We know the sweater value. We know the, actually we just need the cost. Total plus cost. And we want to save the total also somewhere. Total, the total element. Place it here. And then total element. Add total, reset the total. Okay. In the end here, we're going to say sum cost. Cost equals sweater size. So what we do is we added the item to the cart history, and then we sum the total as well. Okay, then let's see if this actually works. So we add, and oof, doesn't work. So there's two errors. Size is not cleared, and add to cart is not defined. Add to cart is not defined, but the add to cart is right here. Size. Oh, okay. Size element and price element, because then we don't want to reassign these because they share the same name, so you don't want to reassign them. So do the size element and the size and the price element. And the size element, and then assign the size price element. It should be called a total element. For some reason, this add to cart is not detected like this. I wonder why. Try again. Oh, this worked. But we also noticed something, that there's a spacing problem here, that we want this guy to, you know, not be right next to it. Maybe we just add a bit of spacing to it. What we can do is, because we named it called total, actually we can just do it inline style because I'm lazy. But usually you should do it within the CSS spreadsheet. So I'm going to say style, margin left, give it 50 pixels. Yeah. Bam. think I'm going to change it to block because I don't think spam itself has margin. Doesn't work either. That's enough. Maybe instead of spam, we can do yeah, we'll have to do something else. Let's see. Spam margin. HTML. Ah, it did work. And why does mine not work? Busted. I'm totally dumb. Okay, we need to add it here. Because let's just see the size element, right? Style margin right needs to be 50 pixels away from it. Because we're creating the items dynamically. So let's say add to cart, small, okay, add a small, okay, the medium, okay, large, okay, again, yep. That's kind of like a rough idea of how you do a cart shopping, and then you can aggregate the smalls and then add options to change how many of a certain size you want. And then do things like that, and then you can style this a little bit better too. Make it more colorful, add more padding and margins, stuff like that. But I think that's enough for today. And I'll continue if I have some other ideas of what to show. But yeah, peace.